In your Forbes feature, when you talk about the do's and don'ts of achieving a six-figure launch, you advise people to ditch the everything needs to be perfect mentality. As that's truly difficult for some, how can one do that, and what's your advice?
I think the first part of it is realizing that when we are trying to be a perfectionist and when we're trying to get everything perfect, what we're actually doing is procrastinating. And it's a really smart way that a lot of excellent entrepreneurs procrastinate and waste time and push things off is by convincing themselves that it has to be perfect. So I think number one is just being aware that it's something that you struggle with and being aware of when you find yourself telling yourself, oh, this has to be perfect. I can't publish this until it's perfect. Being aware. The second thing probably has to do with just mindset and switching the words that you're using in your minds and in your thoughts. So telling yourself, okay, I know that I want this to be as good as possible, but I trust in my ability to create something within a time frame and get it done and put it out there. And I trust that it's going to be exactly what someone needs. I think one of the benefits of creating so much content, because I've been creating content since like 2008, 2009. And one of the benefits that I've learned and one of the lessons I've learned is that you could create something and in your head, you will think to yourself, this isn't that good. This is average. It's really not my best. I could have done better. And someone could see that piece of content and be like, wow, you completely changed the way that I think about something. You changed the way I show up. You changed my life. And it could have been something that you were not very excited about. And I think it's the same with when you create an online course or if whatever your product is. Often I think as the creators, we just hold ourselves to these impeccably high standards. And done is actually better than perfect. Finishing it, putting it out there, seeing how it performs in the real life marketplace, seeing what your clients have to say, listening to their feedback, and then taking all of that real life data and saying, okay, now we're going to develop the product. We're going to make it even better. That's how you get closer to perfection. It's not sitting down in your room alone, like, no data. You need to put it out there and let it live and let it breathe and see what happens with your product in real life.
After one of your launches took place, you mentioned that you set 3 different types of goals: a good goal, a better goal, and the best goal. So how did you come up with this strategy?
So this is a concept that I believe I learned through a mastermind that I'm a part of. I can't remember who said it. It just kind of seems like something that a lot of people do is they have a good, better, and best goal. And that allows you to be able to know, okay, my good goal is like, if we get to here, I'll be happy. We will still be profitable. We will still have made a decent amount of money. And I will feel proud if I reach my good goal. A better goal, I normally like to go just halfway between my best goal and my good goal. And the best goal is like realistically the best that you could imagine and see yourself getting to with the resources and data that you already have. Because when you launch anything, when you're trying to achieve any goal, like I just mentioned before, you want to look at the real data. You want to look at the analytics and say, okay, what can I learn from these numbers and how can I better predict what I will be capable of moving forward? You don't want to set goals that are super out of reach. You want them to be realistic, but that best goal should feel challenging. It should push you out of your comfort zone. And so by having those 3 goals, it gives you such a good buffer of where you should be aiming when you go to launch.
What about when you lack motivation? How do you deal with that? Do you have any strategies for pushing yourself forward?
Yeah, so I think that it's very common and normal for people to lack motivation. I don't think it's something that you should necessarily push through. I do think that there's a time and place. For the most part, whenever I feel a lack of motivation, it's because I'm overworked. It's because I'm stressed. It's because I need more rest. And so whenever I am in that space, I tend to give myself permission to do things that I wouldn't normally do. So maybe sleep in a little bit more instead of waking up super early. I might decide I'm going to relax and watch some Netflix instead of doing the work that's on my table. So I really try to nurture myself, take care of myself, and just give myself a little bit of breathing room to slow down. I think something else that's really helpful is when you've reached that place of lack of motivation is giving yourself a day off and being like, okay, I'm going to take some time off. I'm going to stop, completely not think about work. I'm always very self-aware. And whenever I have that lack of motivation, normally it's an indicator of burnout. Now, for everyone, that's going to be really different. Yours might be an indicator of something else. So I recommend everyone to be like a detective of knowing yourself and knowing what is that lack of motivation? Is it something that you should push through or not really? For me, I'm such a go-getter that it's normally a sign of burnout and that I need to slow down.
I've noticed that you're a strong advocate for healthy work-life balance and that you have actually implemented a 4-day work week. I've also been wondering how it really works because you must be really busy throughout your work week so that you can afford to relax later. So how does a 4-day work week actually work?
Yeah. So at the end of 2021, I started to get very clear on what my values are as a leader and as someone who has a team and who has a business. And it's important to know what your values are and then actually implement them and have them show up in some certain way. So for me, I knew that I'm all about wellness and that work-life balance. It matters a lot to me, but I wanted to make sure that it was happening in the business. So that's why I started to do some research on the 4-day work week. And the research that I found online was all super positive. It was saying by shortening the work week and by also telling your employees like, hey guys, this is a gift. This is something that I'm not promising we're going to have forever. This is something that if we treat this with responsibility, we can keep it and cherish it and love it. So everyone knows that Monday through Thursday, because Friday is the day that we now take off. Monday through Thursday is our time to get things done. It means we need to be at our most efficient. We need to really look at how we're spending every single minute and be as organized as we can to get as much momentum with our projects as possible during those 4 days. And what we have found is that it does really just like make you even more laser focused on what you need to achieve, because you know that you have that Friday off. So if you have errands to run or if you have appointments or whatever, that's really what that Friday is for you to do whatever it is that you want to do. If you have hobbies, painting, dancing, whatever. So yeah, we've been loving it so far. It's been very interesting to see the team work with a 4-day work week. Because when you're used to a 5-day work week, you have so much time to work, but actually taking away that, 20%, it's a big percent to lose. So we've really been making an effort to focus in on how are we spending our time. That's one of the main ways that we use Clockify is looking at where is our time going and what can we do to solve any problems or any areas that we're spending too much time. It's just so beneficial. And honestly, the first few weeks that we did it, I was like, how have we not been doing this before? Like, everyone deserves to have a 3-day weekend. Like, it's just so nourishing to be able to have more time to focus on being your best self outside of work, which then allows you to show up even better when you're in the workplace. So far, so good.
What about when you're out of the office? During those 3 days of the weekend, does it come easy for you to unplug? And do you have any strategies for that maybe?
Yeah. So as the business owner, my brain is always working. So I'm always coming up with ideas. Even when I actively try to disconnect, I find that when I do disconnect, that's when I get my best ideas. So I've just implemented a system in my life where as soon as I have an idea, I open up Notion on my phone and I have an area where I just brain dump ideas throughout the day, even if I'm on my days off. That way I know it's there so that I can circle back to it later during the work week. I don't have to actually work on it in that moment, but it is safely captured and stored. And it's an efficient way for me to capitalize on those ideas instead of punishing myself for working during the weekend, which technically it's not working during the weekend. It's just I have ideas all the time. So it's good to put them down all in one place. Sometimes there are weeks where I have a deadline and I have to work on the weekend, and that's fine. It is what it is. But I would say for the most part, at this point in my business where we're very financially secure and, I'm in a more mature phase than I was when I first started, it's really easy for me to switch off and just enjoy the moment. I think now in my life, I know that my life is so much more than just my business. I want to have a full life outside of the business. And so I enjoy investing time into free time.
In one of your tweets from December last year, you mentioned that you deleted some of your social media apps. How did it feel after doing that? And how difficult was it for you as a content creator to make that decision?
Yeah. So I have a friend and we always have these very deep, meaningful conversations. And he was talking to me about the impact of Instagram and TikTok and like the constant scrolling. And at the time I felt very confident that I don't really waste a lot of time scrolling. Like I feel like I'm very intentional about my time on Instagram and TikTok because it is such a big part of my job. It's not really a place where I go to like relax and mindlessly scroll. Like I think it would just be way too much if I did that. But it challenged me to start to ask myself important questions like, am I addicted to Instagram? What would it be like if I didn't have Instagram? And so I decided to just delete it from my phone and see what that would be like. And I absolutely loved it. I think you don't realize how much of a habit it has become until you delete it from your phone and you find yourself opening your phone and going to click it and it's not even there. And you're not even intentionally trying to go to Instagram. That's when I knew like, this is a problem. If I'm going to Instagram without even being conscious of it, then that is probably something that I should work on just to make sure that I have it in check. So I did that. I deleted it for a few weeks. Of course, it is a really big part of my job and finding new clients and introducing myself to new people online. So it's now back on my phone, but I am trying something where every Sunday I don't go onto Instagram at all. It's hard. It's difficult. I'm trying to implement it. But I think it's a great thing to do for your mental health. And, you don't want to rely too much on these apps. You definitely want to make sure that you're getting your joy from real life.
I know there's certain days are just better and things are working out, but what do you do on certain days when you don't feel like working? Do you just take a day off or how do you deal with that?
Most of the time on the days when I don't feel like working, I don't work. Laura, my operations manager, she always laughs because she's like, if she's learned one thing from working with me, it's that I work in a very particular way and it's very unconventional and not like a normal corporate way to work. But if you try to force me to work in any other way, I just like block off and I'm just not my best self. So over the years, we have learned what are the patterns of how I work and how can we cater to making sure that I'm taken care of? Because what ends up happening is if I push myself, and I don't listen to when I need a break, I burn out. And when I burn out, I disappear. And when I say I disappear, I tell Laura, hey, like I'm really stressed, I'm anxious. She knows that I'm not showing up to work, but I may not show up to work for like a week, which is a really big problem when I'm the one who's moving so many of the projects forward, etc. So we don't want me to disappear. We don't want me to burn out. And in order to avoid that, sometimes it does mean that I'm going to show up to work in the morning and be like, you know what? It's probably better if I just take the day off and tend to my own needs. And I think that's fine. I think especially as the face of the business, as the owner of the business, as the creator of the business, there's just so much stress and pressure that comes along with what I do. And I think I used to underestimate that. And I used to say, oh no, you have to push through. You have to keep working. You need to show up every single day. And now I'm just like, if I don't feel like showing up, I know that actually the better long-term decision is for me to just take the day off. So we are very flexible with me when it comes to how often I need to show up. Like I show up when I can show up. And if I'm going through a really difficult phase, then I don't show up. And that's just what it is.
You've started as a solopreneur, hired your best friends after a while, and then welcomed 6 more people to the team. How did you select the right people to join you?
Yeah. So I highly recommend a book called Make 'em Beg to Work for You by Dr. Angela Lauria. And that book really outlines our thought process and system behind how we went about making our hiring decisions. What I learned from that book is that it's really important that you visualize who your ideal employee is, where they're at in their lives, what skill sets they have, and that you understand that it's a transaction. So they need something and they want something in their lives, and you need to want something in your business, and there's an exchange. So I think for me, I started to feel very confident as a leader and as a business owner when I start to think about all of the benefits that come with working with Team Beadon. So the fact that we work from home, that brings so much joy to our employees. The fact that they can work from home, the fact that there's freedom and flexibility of how they spend their time. So we're like, we want you to work 7 hours a day, but we don't care which 7 hours of the day. That's totally up to you. If you decide to start really early and end really late and have the middle of the day to yourself, then so be it. The 4-day work week now, that's also a massive benefit. The fact that we're a small team and that you can immediately see the impact of the work that you're doing. There's just so many benefits that come with what I'm offering. And I think before reading that book, I never really stopped to think about that. Another really big mindset shift for me was we obsess over our ideal clients as marketers because we want to be able to speak their language and sell to them. It's very similar with your employees. You want to be able to speak their language, but in order to do that, you need to know them. What are they currently struggling with? What are their heartaches? How can you speak directly to them? And so with our job description page, with our job posting, I thought of it like a sales page, and I wanted it to feel bright and on brand. And I wanted someone reading through it to be like, wow, Alex really put a lot of heart and soul into this. I wanted them to like feel the energy of the business from day one. And I think we did a great job. We've attracted a wonderful team of people who are all very good cultural fits and people who are willing to learn and who take initiative. And for me, it's way more about, are you a good cultural fit? And are you someone who's open to learning and growing and figuring out the next steps, as opposed to hiring someone who's not a good cultural fit, but has every single piece of skill set and job experience that we would want. So it's been a really fun journey to hire a team, and I've learned so much, and hopefully it's just the beginning, but it's been a lot of fun so far.
How did your workflow change as soon as you welcomed more people to the team?
My workflow changed because when people join the team, there's obviously a training period, and it changes everything because now not everything is on my shoulders anymore. It's that I'm working with people who are implementing all of the different things. So we've actually been working for the past 1.5 years on creating SOPs, making sure that we have policies in place so that when they are onboarded onto the team, we try to make them as prepared as possible by teaching them exactly how we work so that there's as smooth of a transition as possible. In terms of my workflow, I now have more time and space to work on the projects that really need my attention, and all of the other projects that can be passed off have now been passed off, which is so wonderful. The first few weeks, I was like, this is magic. The fact that I have so much help, so much support allows me to show up in my zone of genius even better. It allows me to be an even better leader. And it's just been wonderful so far. I can't complain.
Are there any other challenges or productivity techniques that you consider worthy of trying out, or that you've tried out and they work for you?
Yeah. So in terms of challenges, I love challenges. Even if I don't finish a challenge, like I did the 75 hard challenge and I didn't finish it. I only did 14 days, but it's just about pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and seeing how you perform under different situations and scenarios. in terms of productivity, I think the best thing to do is challenge yourself to track your time. And I'm not even just saying that because we're talking to you guys like Clockify. I mean that in general. Like if you can challenge yourself to time track everything that you're doing while you are working, and then be able to review it to say, to be like, okay, well, I put down that I worked on this project for 2 hours, but I know that really it wasn't very focused work and I didn't get a lot done. Then you can start to think, okay, well, is it distractions and how can I minimize distractions? Is it that maybe you are hungry and you went and made some lunch or whatever? Being able to look back at your day every single day and look at it from that strategic perspective is priceless when it comes to productivity. Yes, there are so many techniques. There's the Pomodoro technique. There's so many different things you can try when it comes to time management, but no one knows you better than yourself. And so it's like just this constant journey of self-reflection and being realistic, looking at the data. That's why Clockify helps so much, is really looking and being like, where did my time actually go? And was it productive?
You've mentioned that you now have a lot of time for the things you should be giving your attention to, but as a CEO, you still have a bunch of non-creative tasks to complete every day. In what ways has tracking and managing your time with Clockify helped you keep up with both aspects of operating a business, the creative side and the non-creative side?
Yeah. So what we've done is we have different projects so that I can very clearly get a quick overview as to how much of my time went into content creation, how much of my time went into product development, how much of my time went into administration, how much of my time went into managing the team, all of these different things. And then I set goals based on where I'm spending my time so that I know that I shouldn't be spending all my time in content creation, but sometimes that's what's fun. But I know that that's not really what's going to get the business to where it needs to be. So being very aware of where is my time going and making sure that each area is getting enough time. And actually, as a team, every single week, in our weekly meeting, we actually look at where the entire team's time went based under 5 different categories. And if you give me a minute, I can actually pull them up and share them with you. But I love doing this with the team every single week because it brings clarity to exactly where our time is going. And then we can say, okay, this week we really spent too much time on community or admin or whatever. Okay, so the different categories that we track are administration, which we normally say should be less than 10%. And this was a big one for me because what we started to realize was that I was spending so much time in admin, our percentage was way too high. And so Laura really started to work with me intimately as the operations manager to be like, why are you spending so much time in admin? How can we outsource your admin to someone else? Like, you shouldn't be spending this much time in admin. We track team education. So things like courses, anything that's helping people be better at what they do. We track business development. So anything that's helping the business be better. Community. So that's like, if I'm responding to people on Instagram, that would count as community. Content development, content creation, marketing development, and product development. So we can very clearly every single week see exactly where our time is going. And it's just so helpful. And I think as well as team members, it makes us feel more connected because it reminds everyone that where you spend your time every single week, it contributes to this. It contributes to the entire team and where we're all spending our time. So it helps people stay more accountable. And yeah, we love using Clockify. It really helps us maximize our efficiency.
Does Team Beadon share your time management values? And was it challenging to bring everyone on board with time tracking?
Yeah, people ask me that all the time. They're like, how did you get everyone to just use Clockify? It's a part of the, like, as soon as you get onboarded onto the team, it is just a requirement. It is expected that you use Clockify. And we're very clear with people that we're not using Clockify to reprimand you or to be like, you didn't work enough hours, or to be like, you wasted your time on this. No, like at all. We trust our team members We trust that they're being efficient with their time. We are not micromanaging their time. Really what this is about looking for any areas of improvement when it comes to our team efficiency. If I don't know what you're working on, if I don't have visibility on that, then I'm not doing my best job as a leader in order to make sure that we're driving the business in the right direction. If I can see that I've just hired, let's say a content creator, and she's spending 6 hours on one Instagram post, and that Instagram post is getting us 5 clicks to our website, I can't know what the return on my investment is unless I know how much time she's spending in content creation or on a particular Instagram post or whatever. And Clockify allows us the ability to get more detailed and really look into where we're wasting time and how we can be better. If anyone was opposed to that and really did not want to be time tracked, then we're probably not the right team for them. It's a really big, important part of our team culture is that we use Clockify every single day and that we have that visibility as a team of where our work hours are going. So it hasn't been difficult to implement. It's just from day one, it's introduced to you and it's just an expectation.
In one of your Instagram posts, you mentioned that you see Clockify, I will quote you, as a complete game changer. How did Clockify change your workflow? And I have one more question about features. What particular features do you find the most useful for your workflow?
Yeah, so before we started tracking our time, it's like you have no visibility. How can you be efficient if you have no visibility? If you can't track and measure where you're spending your time, then how do you even know where you're spending your time? So it was a complete game changer because it gives you that level of visibility. It's a really easy habit to get into. It's just one of those things where when I started using it, I wasn't perfect at using it, but you just keep getting back on the horse, what I had to do was I have these like sticky notes, like post-it notes. And I would have one by my desk that just says like, remember to go on Clockify and track your time. So it is something that's now super easy for me. It's just become a habit. In terms of how it changed my workflow, immensely, because again, you don't know what you're spending your time on until you actually have it written down somewhere. And then you could be horrified by just how much time you're spending on something that's not giving you a return on your investment. When you're running a business, profitability is everything. Money is oxygen to your business. And you need to make sure that you are spending your time in areas that are giving you a return on your investment, especially if you are a solopreneur. I think a lot of times people will think, oh, I don't need to time track. I don't have a team. You need to time track the most if you are a solopreneur because your time matters the most. You don't have that much time. It's like, for me, now that I have a team, I feel like my time has been multiplied. There's so many of us now that we're moving at such a faster pace. It matters even more to your business success when you're just a solopreneur. In terms of which features I love the most, I love the fact, and I have it open right here, the fact that you can have projects and then like narrow it down even more. So for example, right now I have this under a project that's called development, collaboration, and press. But underneath that, like the actual task is called interview. So at the end of the year, I could go back and be like, how much time did I spend doing interviews for press and collab? And it will be right there. I think that's such a cool feature. I think as well, the ability to be able to click through and see a calendar overview of how you've spent your time. We only just discovered that. And it's so cool to be able to look week after week, like what is your workflow like? For me, a lot of times I will work early in the morning, work later in the afternoon, and have like a big time in the middle. And just having visibility around that is helpful to understanding how you work. I also really love the reports. Oh my gosh, it's like beauty to be able to see all of the numbers and everything is color coded. And like, you can go in and be like, okay, this week, I'm looking at it right now. This week we spent 21.8% of our time on content creation. Like that's really helpful for us to know as a team. So there's so many cool features. Another one that I love is being able to actually go and see like, what is everyone working on as we speak? That's so cool. Like I can see right now, Laura is working on operations development. So she's probably working on something in Notion. I can see that Avery is working on Together We launch planning. I can see that Stacy is working on project storyline community. It's great to be able to go in and right now get a live overview of what everyone's working on. It's very, very cool.
I found an interesting number also related to your time tracking. I've seen that last year you spent an amazing 841 5 hours working. That's really an astonishing number. Is there a number or a fact that just blew your mind when you started using Clockify?
I think the amount of time that I was wasting. I just wasn't very efficient with my time. And again, until you have that visibility, how can you really be efficient? How can you know or keep all of those things in your head of where you're spending your time? So I think just looking at how much time I was wasting at the beginning, spending times on things that weren't giving me a return on my investment, I think that was super shocking to me. But yeah, I mean, when we sat down and we looked at 2021 and how much time I spent in the business and on what was shocking to me was actually how little time I spent in the business. A lot happened to me in 2021. So I actually was not working like full day work days or work weeks. And yet we still had a super successful, profitable year. So I think being able to reflect on how much time you actually spent and have you built your team up to be able to function without you and perform without you is also really, really interesting. My team thrives using Clockify, and I don't know what we would do without it. It's become it's one of the core tools that we use in the business. And like I said, we're reviewing our hours and how we're spending our time every single week. So from my team to your team, thank you so, so much.